I was going to use these props for my other video. Then, oh, here. This is a good prop. I'll show the people. I was planning on driving around the country and shitting in my SUV, but it was only the coronavirus thing that really put an end to that plan. I figured out that I could shit in the SUV without tilting my head if I opened the sunroof. So, Could you imagine if I'm just smiling at people as they pass by and waving, and then they wouldn't know that I was shitting? That would be really funny. I mean, that's comedy. That's they think it's just a candidate waving, but no, that's when I'm taking a dump. Okay. All right. Do you think I've lost my mind, or I'm just in the process of losing? Okay. Hang on a second. Let me get some books. Okay, I'm going to turn off that other monitor too so we don't keep it on all the time. I don't know. Figure out how to turn off. There we go. Monitor off. Hey! Amazing. Okay, wait. Is that better, or?
Yes, I would say so.
Of course, there's a bed behind me. It looks like that's fine. Unmade bed. That's nice props. Okay. Is that high enough, or would you like it higher?
Perfect. That's perfect.
Okay. Let me just see. Wait. I have a book here. Wait, no, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, very good. Oh, is this taping? This is.
I see you're wearing your traditional orange too.
Yeah, and I figured out that it was a really good color for the you're in home lockdown California thing. You know, like it's like how can I put it? I
free the prisoner
in my own home.
Gotcha. So why don't you? I know your name, but you want to tell me your name and why you're running for president?
Yeah. 1 second. I want to find my figures I just crunched on the new the newest number of deaths in the U.S. Oh, I got it in my head. It was 480, but I did all these calculations based on the number of deaths of likely number of cases. My guess is 1.5 to 3 million in the U.S. Okay, 1 second. Let me find my crunching calculations if I can. Oh, I can't find them. Forget it. I just did all this work, and now I lose my work. The second the video starts, I lose my work. Oh, it's okay. Yeah. Wait. Where's those numbers I crunched? God damn it! This is probably being taped, and they'll call this my bloopers. Here's my thermometer I've been using to check myself all. My special mask for when I'm near mom. Jesus Christ. Ugh. How do I lose all those numbers I crunched? It doesn't matter. We can get. They're in my head enough. I just sat there. That's what I spent the last half hour doing, was crunching all those numbers, and now I lose them.
Was it on
the back of an envelope, which is.
Was it under the books? Did you put it under the books by mistake?
That's possible. Jesus, 1 second. Sorry. Okay. Forget it. I just crunched all these fucking numbers and now they're lost. That's okay.
Well,
I get it. The main thing to know is they made it hard for me to access the number of deaths. I had to sit there and crunch them all myself. They list in big numbers 336,000 cases in the world when they have no idea. And then they say almost 15,000 deaths, and they say 100,000 recovered. And then you have to go, and then when they list it for the U.S., they list it state by state by state. You have to sit there to add up the numbers of deaths to 480, I had to sit there and add it up state by state by. They don't have a big numbers, 480 U.S. deaths, and then because they haven't ever done enough testing. Or sorry, are you taping this or yes?
Yeah.
No. Okay, because they have never fully calculated the death rate. We don't know whether the death rate is the same as the flu, but it's just incredibly more contagious, or whether it's double the flu, or whether it's 5 times the flu, or whether it's 10 times the flu. But guessing that it's 5 times as deadly as the flu, because I heard a famous doctor the other day say that was the rate that they figured out from Korea. Although I've also seen from the St. Johns Hopkins website says that it's closer to a 1% death rate. If that's the case, if it's 1% death rate, then we probably have 1.5 million cases in the U.S. Hang on. Oh shit! This is a friend. This is my friend in Seattle with bad lungs. Hang on. Okay, Leela, I can't talk now. I'm being interviewed. Okay, are you all right? Are you all right? Okay. I'm just glad you're not dying. Okay, I'll call you back soon. Love you. Bye. Okay, good. Sorry, got to check on my friend with a bad lungs and lives in suburban Seattle. You know, that's what we call high risk. Anyways, sorry. Yeah, I mean, my mom is 80 and has diabetes, and I'm taking care of her, and I'm pretty sure I fucking had this thing a week ago. Well, I peaked at my fever a week ago. I've been looking at charts that say that now that I had my fever, peaked at fever. I only had 3 hours of fever, thank God. Then I went to bed, and I woke up without the fever, the headache was 80-90% gone, although I've had a trailing tiny headache for the last week until today, and it was right here at the back of my head. I've had like my lungs, I've been feeling it, and the reason why I'm so sure I have it is I can't remember it's been decades since I've had a fever. That's not true. Maybe 5 years ago when I got a flu shot, I got sick, and for a week, and this sickness was less than that, but I don't get sick. It's been decades since I've been sick, and now that this is going around and I got sick and my all my symptoms were the exact same except for body aches, I'm like, yeah, I got the fucking, what are you, COVID-19? You know, it's like, fuck. Okay, hang on, let me plug in the computer so this thing doesn't die. Yeah, so I figured out that I have it, and I'm carrying my fucking 80-year-old mom with type 1 diabetes with a pulverized knee. So I've had to like worry about like, you know, like I've had to pick her up off the floor a few times, and you know,
So I'll calm down. It's okay.
It's a miracle she hasn't gotten it, but she hasn't gotten it. So every day, like if I hear her like sneeze, I'm like, "Are you dying?" You know. But gotta laugh
like
right now. It's horrible.
Dying.
But
here's the question, because I feel like you veered off of it a little bit. Tell me your name and a little bit about your presidential campaign.
Okay, I'm Fred Schultz. I am 52, so I'm old enough to run for president. I know, but okay. And what else? 52. The whole idea is that we need to repurpose the government to caring about us as opposed to oppressing us. Now, I know that was a lot of Bernie's thing too, although to be honest, my anger at Bernie, well, first of all, let me just say this. I started running 18 years ago. I had never heard of Bernie 19 years ago now. What happened was Bush, whatever, I was always opposed to that evil piece of shit Bush. I had not realized when he, quote, won that he had lost the election to Gore by 500,000 votes. I had always focused, like the whole country had, on this, the hanging chads in Florida. And I was all furious at the Supreme Court for stopping the recount when he was about to pull ahead in Florida. And I was all like distracted by Florida when others had, oh God. I remember you meeting him and giving him a flower, and he loved you for it, and he was very nice, as opposed to Trump, who had you beaten many times mercilessly for accusing him of violating Christ's precepts of not being poor and not cheating on your wife or things like that. I can't remember exactly what you were. So he, of course, has you beaten by the local police to teach the local Christ lover a lesson. Anyway, okay, so what is my whole thing? My whole thing is that the government has been oppressing us, mostly unbeknownst to us, or we didn't feel we had a say. And my point of view was, I want to give us a say. My whole thing was that I couldn't figure out, I wanted to end all the wars. I was very opposed to going into even Afghanistan and then Iraq. I started this the minute that the U.S. invaded Afghanistan. I figured out that I decided, this is some psycho terrorists attacking us. This is our chance to say, look, they are about hate and murder. We are about love. Now, I don't think that means that you don't kill the terrorists, but I do think that means you don't invade nations to do it. We could have done it like, Navy SEALs sneaking around, bumping off a terrorist here and there. I mean, because they only had a group of like 100 at first. All we had to do was shut up about the whole thing, and just like, instead of invading Afghanistan, we knew exactly the 1 acre where they trained. I mean, all we had to do. Anyway, it's all water under the bridge at this point. My point is, I was all about ending every war. Granted, now I admit I was not always so smart. I was duped during the first Iraq war around 1991, I think it was. I was truly duped. Oh my God, Iraq invaded Kuwait, and we must force them out of Kuwait because of territorial borders. And yeah, I get it, but first of all, they were like called side drilling, like from that movie There Will Be Blood. Like they were shoving the tube under the country to get the oil. And number two, what else were they doing? What's his name? Rumsfeld had given the go-ahead to Saddam Hussein just weeks before, like, oh yeah, we don't care what you do with.
But Marianne Williamson was just telling me that even Donald Rumsfeld said that we needed to learn to wage peace.
Okay, this is where
did I say it wrong? Donald. Huh?
This is where I go with watch what
Rumsfeld?
they do, not what they say. Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. But I was always against these wars, number one, and I was against this war on drugs, number two. From the time I was a senior in high school, I figured out that the war on drugs, which was, by the way, I'm old, 1986. I was an intern in Washington, and I was with this. I had gone to Exeter for the last 3 years of high school. And I had gotten into this, what they call a Washington internship program, where we got to work for somebody and not get paid, but get credit. And at Exeter, if we had been caught with one joint or one beer, we were thrown out. Oh, you're going to burn some plastic. No, I thought you were going to burn plastic. I thought there was going to be some kind of a conflagration of the signs behind you. And then you'd run out while the place burned down. And anyway, and we'd all still, oh, is that weed? Oh no, that's sage. Is that white sage? Mushrooms? Sage?
You were saying?
Okay. I figured out what happened was I went on this Washington internship program. I was going to say that was the first time I tried weed, but that's not true. I tried weed now, I recall, when I went to my first concert, which was Bryan Adams opening for Journey. And this was, probably around 1980. And
what song was his finale?
What?
What was the finale song?
Probably Don't Stop Believin', or something like that. Yeah. Which, by the way, like, yes, I was into that shit when I was 14, but unlike Clinton, I didn't stick with it, for God's sake. Anyway,
Eye of the Tiger. Did you ever go to see Survivor?
Oh God, no. But I did love that song, and I did love the original Rocky song during law school. I was playing that every morning to help me through law school. Like, oh no, that was the Eye of the Tiger. No, that was, I would use myself to get up and start the day at law school. But even in law school, like, by the way, okay, so I had first smoked weed when I was at this concert, and actually at the time, and I know this is hard to imagine now given COVID-19, but they would pass the joint down the line and everybody would take a hit and then pass hit and pass it. Like when I was 12, and then when I was like 18, that was when I was like, I had certainly tried alcohol my whole life in little amounts, but then when I went on the Exeter internship program, we were drinking large amounts because what happened was we were invited to, I was an intern. As I said, they gave us a very small amount of money, very small amount of money to live. And, but we were invited, I was opening the mail for the congressman. By the way, all I had asked for was to work for a Democrat. So of course they assigned me to a Republican, but they said, look, he is the governor of, he was later the governor. His father was the governor. He is the representative from New Hampshire. He is our representative. And we want to give him a good taste of the school. We want to represent the school well to him. So we're having you work for him, even though he's a Republican. So what was funny was I was all like pro-gun control and he was anti-gun control. Now I'm still pro-gun control, but I still, especially given this recent bullshit with declaring a national depression in response to this COVID-19 thing, I do want a gun. However, I'm living at home taking care of my mom, and she says, if I buy a gun, she'll call the police, whatever. So okay. My point is, okay.
My point is, I need to hunt squirrels.
Oh, that's true too. I'm thinking of fishing in the ocean if I have to, but I'm very concerned about them purposely taking a disease and using this as an excuse to declare a international and national depression. Like, my point of view is, like, the only thing more contagious, it appears, than the coronavirus is totalitarianism. It is the willing to submit to totalitarianism given the fear. Now, Trump tried to pump up the fear of Mexicans to get us to put up with that shit, and we haven't. And Bush tried to pump up the fear of Muslims to get us to put up with that shit, and our nation largely did, although this is the ultimate push. And he even had the Justice Department the other day submit some plan to Congress to suspend habeas corpus. This is in the name of fighting COVID-19. All I can say is, fuck you! You want to suspend COVID-19? It's very simple. Exercise, eat right, take daily vitamins and minerals, and, anything that boosts your immune system that you can look up on the internet. I'm taking ginger pills right now. Okay, and if you want to forget it all, have a drink. Actually, that shit might kill a lot in your system too. There's a lot of alcohol in there. Okay, anyway. What am I getting at? Oh, so I went on this Exeter internship program, and to back up a bit, and this was when Reagan was stepping up his whole Just and Nancy, who was a drug addict. Fuck! She was pill-popping drug addict, according to her daughter's book. Yeah, they call them pep pills or diet pills. That's speed. That is speed. That is legal speed. That's amphetamines. That's legal fucking speed. The same shit that they're pumping up our school children on. These fucking psychopaths. Anyway, they were like, just say no unless you're me and get it from a psychiatrist, unless you go to your doctor to get it, right? But that gets back to the whole point. This whole war on drugs was a war on poor people who didn't have health insurance. The rich people were medicating through prescription by the doctor, and the poor people were self-medicating and therefore getting arrested. And that's all it is. And I was very angry with that whole Just Say No thing, because I was smoking out of a bong, and I was going to all these free receptions by the lobbyists, because I would get every day I would get invitations to the congressman from the lobbyists, and I would open every one of them and fax them to all the other interns. And the second the party started, we descended on the party, whoom, and we just eat like like stand around the fishbowl, and all these lobbyists were like, boy, what, you think you've never seen shrimp before? I was like, ugh, fuck you, and we were free drinks, free everything we want. So that was, we would just pig out because we weren't getting paid enough to eat, so we were just like, we were getting paid nothing by the congressman, which is still probably the practice, but the school was giving us part of the tuition and letting us eat, but it wasn't enough, and fuck it, I got the invitations, fax that shit out. It was great. But anyway, so my point is, like, I was introduced to smoking large amounts of weed and drinking large amounts of alcohol at the same time. And I was like, wait a second, the alcohol's a lot more stronger, and the weed is illegal, and they're saying just say no, and if you don't, we're going to arrest you. And this was the exact same time that they were sending in the fucking helicopters into Central America to shoot up the fucking villagers and the farmers, and they showed these videos. You can go on YouTube and look it up. Walter Cronkite, War on Drugs. He would say, if anything, you can see the war on drugs makes for entertaining television, and then you see, so like they were doing that, and we would see that on the nightly news. They were doing that and expecting us to be like, woo, yeah, go get it. I was like, fuck you. Fuck you. I actually met the Secretary of Defense after he gave the speech. I should have yelled out while he gave the speech how proud he was. We were combating drugs in Central. Instead, I just yelled at him afterwards in person. Of course, if I had yelled at him during the meeting, I would have been arrested, tortured, who knows, probably thrown out of the program. I don't know, maybe not. But I yelled at him in person. That I felt good, face to face. He saw my smiling face, and then I hit him hard. Yeah.
Did he pinch your cheeks?
What?
Did he pinch your cheeks?
Yeah, right. I don't know. No, but I gave him hell.
Is there a way you can slow down on moving the camera around there? Do you have to hold on?
I'll chill.
Is there a way you can not hold on to it? Yeah, I mean, try. I don't know.
Try to get the picture perfect.
Try.
Okay.
Wait, go ahead.
Okay. So I realized that this war on drugs was cruel and vicious and a literal war, and that all it would do is piss off the poor people, well, kill them. Those that live would be angry. And it would make their countries extremely impoverished. It would take the drugs and raise the prices extraordinarily, make them impossible to get. When you do get them, you don't know what you're getting. You have to deal with somebody. You don't know if they're going to give you the good stuff or the bad stuff. You don't know what they're going to charge you. You don't know if they're going to give you oregano. You don't know if they're going to rip you off. I was like, all they're doing is increasing crime, because when you take something that could cost, there's no reason weed should cost any more than corn, although they do subsidize corn so they can make the high fructose corn syrup and then kill us and give us diabetes, and then make us more susceptible to death by coronavirus. By the way, coronavirus is just another word for the common cold comes from coronavirus. I'm not saying this is worse than this is not worse than the common cold. Of course, it's much worse. Of course. I mean, the death rate in that nursing home in Seattle is now 30%, supposedly 30% of those in the nursing home, and 45% of those who caught it is the death rate. So yeah, I mean, among the most vulnerable population, it appears it's extremely deadly. But this whole effort to stop it is, number one, based on the misguided concept that it's possible to stop it. Now, given that this website, it's a Johns Hopkins website, says that we have almost 15,000 confirmed cases. No, almost 15,000 confirmed deaths in the world.
Yeah. Go on.
Almost 15,000 confirmed deaths in the world, and 480 confirmed deaths in the U.S. And if we multiply that out by a ratio of, say, if it's a 1% death rate, which I believe is very high, I believe the death rate is probably a 0.5%, because we don't know, because we haven't done the testing. And I'll get to testing in a minute. But if the death rate is 0.5%, then we're dealing with 3 million Americans who have it, and oh shit, I forgot to calculate out the number of people in the world who have it. Okay, let me do the calculation. So that's 3 million Americans who have it then. And if that's true, let me see, the number say it's 15,000 worldwide times 200, 0.5% death rate is, 3 million worldwide, sorry. And if it's 480 deaths in the US times 200 equals 96,000 in the US right now. If these numbers are right, we could be really looking at a 0.1% death rate, same as the flu, just that, except for that everybody gets it. In that case, it would be around 200,000 people who have it in the U.S. And we don't know. And I do, as I said, I do believe I had it. I do believe that, according to the World Health Organization, I'm not contagious anymore. However, I have heard of a lot of, they are quite adamant about this, that by day 7 or 8 after you've peaked at your fever, if you get a fever, you're not contagious anymore. Or yes, but they have interviewed these people who, I saw a man being interviewed the other day who got off one of these cruise ships who had it, and he did test positive for about 30 days with it in his system. Now, of course, your viral load goes down every day, and it mostly tanks within a day or two after you peak your fever, if you get a fever, which I did, as I said. But anyway, and that was around 8 days ago. So either way, I should be safe, but to be really safe, around my mom now for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to wear the mask. She hasn't gotten it, thank God, and it appears, and that's a miracle. I'm happy. I'm very happy. But my point is, I do not believe so. According to these world, if there's a 0.5% death rate and 15,000 people have died, then the number of people is 3 million in the world, and there's 3.6 billion. However, I do believe either everyone's going to get it, or as Angela Merkel said, 1/3 to 2/3 of us are going to get it. We don't know, but I believe it's probably likely that all of us will. And also Dr. David Ho, I saw him on TV around 2:33 in the morning on PBS the other day on the Christiane Amanpour, who I love, TV show, and he was being interviewed by David Isaacson, who I love, and he was saying that he believes that we're going to be with this for years, or it's possible we'll be with this for years, certainly possible. When she asked how long we're going to be with this for, and he said it's possible it will go from the northern hemisphere to the southern, to the northern, to the southern, depending on which is warmer. And it very well might follow weather patterns for years. And this whole talk about, beating it, we've never beaten the common cold. We've never beaten the flu. And this might just be a new thing that we're never going to beat. And I certainly think that, as this woman on this documentary I saw last night said, the cat's out of the bag on this one. Meaning, like, when you hear this World Health Organization scientists say that we have to test everyone and we have to speak to everybody they've spoken to. Well, when you have likely, what's the number again? Yes. The number that they've tested that has it is 336,000. Oh yeah, wait. So that's right. But so 3 million people truly have it, say that the death rate is 0.5%, then 3 million people have it worldwide. The concept of tracking 3 million people, truly to know who had it. But Trump was he's obviously always full of shit, but he was so full of shit when he said to really know what's going on, we don't have to track, we don't have to test every person in the country. That's a lie. Because so many people have it and are asymptomatic ever, not just like in the beginning stages, but ever. So to truly know who has it, you'd have to test everybody in the country, and by that it's too late anyway. Number one, it's way too late. It's spreading like wildfire, and it's useless. Number two, this whole idea of a national shutdown. First of all, maybe it would have worked from if we had done it the day after the thing was discovered in China. However, we would have had to let nobody in or out of the country, and likely no goods in or out of the country, although certainly people. And the fact is, given that we still, we would have to never let anybody into the country ever again, because it was already going to start spread. Unless they had shut it down in China, which they didn't. So the fact, and we're just not going to live that way. We're just not going to live with closed borders and nobody can ever leave or enter leave and then re-enter the U.S. and certainly nobody from outside the U.S. can ever enter. You can't live like that, and it's a ridiculous way to live, and it would have been futile. Now, of course, it would have, as they say, bought us some time, but they should have had enough. They knew they had done what do you call it, epidemic preparation studies years ago, and they knew that we would be vastly underprepared. Even Trump's administration, with people who he didn't know they were doing this, had just recently completed a run through on an epidemic and shown that every part of the government collapsed. And now they're talking about giving us each $600 to help us through the next several years of depression. And as we know, once you start a war, as he calls it, there's no way. It's as we know from Afghanistan and Iraq, once you start a war, good luck getting out, and this whole social distancing thing, it's a formula for economic depression. And when you have economic depression, that is a formula for far more deaths than COVID-19 will ever cause. First of all, let's just think, if it's a 1% death rate, which is high, okay, and we have 7.7 billion people in the world, then we'd be looking at at 70 million, 77 million dead. Yes. And if it's a 5% death rate, then I guess, God forbid, and the whole world catches it, you're looking at 350 million dead. That's true, and that's horrible. But we're not looking at that death rate likely. I mean, 95% of the people who get it don't even show, well, mild to severe symptoms, but don't need a hospitalization. You only need hospitalization if your lungs are like in really bad trouble. And my lungs, thank God, I mean, this was, I will admit, this flu, I mean, what I had was 3 days of pain in my lung. First, I had 3 days of sniffles. I forgot. Then I had 3 days of pain in my lungs. Then I had 1 day of a headache, which got worse and worse. Started the fever. I got dizzy for a few hours. Not super dizzy, a little dizzy. Thank God. By the way, this is all a miracle that I made it through. And I do believe I made it through this unscathed. Went to bed, woke up without, broke the fever, thank God. And I did pray a lot. And I did make a deal with God. I'll never smoke anything again if you help me pull through this. I wasn't thinking in terms of not smoking, may possibly, if I ever have the chance, some exotic hallucinogens, say, for instance, plant-based. But I would do that. But I was thinking, in my mind, I was thinking I'll never smoke again weed or cigarettes. But maybe I should just throw that other one in, because it was kind of a blanket deal with God. But I wasn't thinking about those. I wasn't thinking about hallucinogens, because I mean, I haven't done those in like a decade. I mean, many years. Yeah, 10 years. And I mean, they're a special treat. You know? So I wouldn't necessarily say no to that. But anyway, yeah, sorry, I'm moving the camera. My point is, it appears that the only thing more contagious than the coronavirus is the novel coronavirus, as they call it, is totalitarianism and submitting to it. Granted, I'm submitting to it, and I am social distancing from Mom, and I was even on the beach and in the supermarket, and you know, I mean, if I had to go, I did wear a mask until I believed I was uncontagious, till I heard the news. But I'm uncontagious. I mean, I was uncontagious. I'm not. I was wearing a mask. I'm not contagious. I'm not. But I was about to go to the farmer's market 2 days after I got it, not knowing I still might be like somewhat contagious. I thought, oh, I broke the fever. I'm not. But I'm very angry that they've used this whole thing to shut down these farmers markets, because that's how we stay healthy. It's by eating from fresh fruits and vegetables from the farmers. That's how we keep our immune system strong. That's how we don't get coronavirus. When you are forced to eat processed foods, canned foods, which are lined in plastic, and then that plastic poisoning seeps into the food, and if you're a man, it actually makes you more of a woman. Because yes, it somehow converts your changes into estrogen in your body. But my point is,
so I feel it. So this is your answer
oh, and I
to the
forgot my
first
whole
question.
part of the. What?
You're at least a half hour deep into this, and that was only my first question. So,
I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you, I want to legalize all drugs. I believe we have the human rights to do our bodies as we wish. I want to free 90-something% of the people in jail, which is around 2 million. And certainly now that this coronavirus is swarming through now they're turning, oh, you were arrested for having a handful of weed or crack or something, and now it's a death sentence. To which I say, fuck you. And to everybody says, oh, well, crack is more dangerous than weed. Maybe. I have the right to do to my own body as we wish. You know who else believed this? The founders of our nation. That was the whole thing. We get the rights to do to our own bodies as we wish. I'm the only candidate running who knows that victimless and consensual crimes like drugs, prostitution, gambling, public nudity, and sodomy, although we might not want to completely legalize public nudity just because. In
the words of Rick James, cocaine is a hell of a drug.
I don't recommend it. I've tried it under probably 3, 4, 5 times in my life, around 5 times, many decades ago. And around the third time, I did almost die. I had what I think was the beginning of a heart attack, and I had to like reset my heart, like you know. And I did make this, and while I prayed a lot, and I did make this deal with God that if I lived, I wouldn't do it again. But I did do it twice more in my life. But I'm not doing it again. But my point is, yeah, I don't deny it can be dangerous. I also think we have the right to shoot ourselves, or to snort cocaine till we die, or to do whatever else we want to do with. I mean, and all these people is talking against, you know, oh, we must make cocaine illegal. As I said, Nancy Reagan was addicted to pep pills. By the way, I am not on any pep pills. This is me unmedicated. I am on green tea right now. I am on green and mint tea right now. That's my drug of choice these days. So yes, this is natural, Fred.
Yes, and again, this is still only the answer to the first question. So my second question.
More, so I will let you. By the way, I'm going to look. I think I have in here that the original prescription I got for Ritalin. What happened was I was trying when I was right after law school. I was having trouble studying for the bar because I was getting it easily distracted. I might have the bottle in here somewhere. So I got a prescription for Ritalin, and I took one pill, and it gave me this slamming headache. I was like, and then I remember reading in the book, oh, and then I looked it up and said, oh, well, if you get a headache, just take the pills for a month, and then the headaches might go away. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Any pill you got to take. I was like, any pill you have to take and have headaches for a month, and then they go away is actually poison. And so what I did was instead I locked myself in my closet, literally. Luckily it had a window, or I might have gone crazy, but it had a window. I put a heater in there because it was freezing in New York. And I closed the door, and I forced myself to get through a certain amount of pages every day, even though my brain was only capable of getting through half that amount, but I still managed to pass it. And honestly, I crammed enough to pass that New York bar with, like, really, I learned it all in only the last 3 weeks. I still haven't passed the California bar because I was getting distracted a lot, and I have to focus more on that. But that's not the point. I am still committed to do in New York, and God willing, if nothing else is working in my life, because I'm running for president now, but if that doesn't work, or if I'm just going to take donations, hopefully I'll get some and try to fight for people to do, to allow refugees to stay here instead of being sent to their deaths back in Mexico or Guatemala or wherever they're going to be shot, Colombia. Yeah, I was very angry, and I still am about this war on drugs, and I've been on a rant since I was 18, and I'm 52, and I'm tired of it. I can't believe they have no right to lock us up if we're not hurting someone. If the only person we're hurting is ourselves, and you say, oh, well, the drug dealer's hurting someone, not if they're giving you the drug you asked for. But the problem is we don't know what we're getting because they keep them illegal. If they made them legal, we'd be able to go to CVS, and yes, we'd still be able to go and buy it on the corner if we want, but most people wouldn't. But if I wanted to grow some drug in my backyard, like, say, organic weed and organic opium and organic ayahuasca, or that's 2 plants that you combine, then I would.
All right. So that's the answer to the first question. I'm going to try to get to the second one.
My slogan is free the people. That's why I'm running. I feel like they're telling us to stay in our homes. We couldn't be more prisoners than this. Free the people. Okay, although they did allow me to go jogging on the beach today.
My second question for you, Fred. My second question. Please, you must let me get through this.
Shut up, and you can ask as many questions.
I'm trying to be laid back, but the second question is it true that politicians are like diapers and they need to be changed often and for the same reasons?
So far, yes. I mean, if you consider Gandhi a politician, no. I loved him. I loved MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., the Reverend. I mean, there's
Reverend Doctor.
The Reverend Doctor, Dr. Rev. There's certain people that some would call politicians who I love deeply. They were out of the box politicians, or in jail in the box politicians, you might say. But because they were both arrested all the time. But in general, yeah. But I'm not like Tom Steyer. I'm like, what is that? Term limits. No, I do believe we have to ban money from politics. And the Democrats say, oh, ban big money from politics. No, ban money from politics. All money from politics. And their whole competition thing to get into their primary thing was bullshit. You had to get $40,000 $1 donations. I mean, that's a process that favors the famous and incumbents, because they're the ones with and rich people. Whoever can, those are the ones with the mailing list or with a fan base. I mean, they had nothing to do with encouraging people like me or you to run, which would have been a website where you have a video or have 10 videos of the person and you have them list their platform, or you have a spreadsheet of issues and candidates too. They could have done that and mailed it out to everyone in the country, and then taken votes and said, who do you want to be in the debate? And whoever the top 100 are, you each get 5 minutes to answer each question, and then you can go on the website. Then we winnow it down and win it. We could have done that, but no. These fucktards chose a means that favored the rich, the famous, and the incumbents. And when they talk about even Andrew Yang's idea, who I love that he copied my basic income idea, but with much less money. And it wasn't just my idea. I later on found out it was Thomas Paine's idea, as was a wealth tax. By the way, that's what I've also been pushing for 18 years, is a wealth tax.
Well, to be fair, before Thomas Paine, there was Thomas More. Then, of course, certainly Martin Luther King, Milton Friedman, and, more recently, even Tulsi Gabbard, Mitt Romney have spoken about it. So, yeah, I mean, UBI goes all the way back to the 1500s.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Sorry.
Thomas More.
Shoot me. Just shoot me.
No, I mean, it's a fine idea.
Okay, yeah. But also I found by reading Thomas Paine was that he had I thought that I thought up the wealth tax. I did not know that they did it in Europe when I thought it up. I was just trying to figure out, why are we the quote richest country in the world, and our government is always broke? And it hit me that it was because we were taxing income instead of net worth. And soon after that, a few years later, I heard on the radio, some woman had, a political scientist had done a study in, I think it was West Virginia, and found out that of the wealthiest 100 families in the state, 50 of the wealthiest 100 families had not paid taxes, I think, in the last 100 years. So it hit me, we have to have a wealth tax, because all these people are either paying two times percentage of their wealth or 0% of their wealth, and that was the only way. And it hit me. I was actually pushing for much higher numbers than I am now, but even my current numbers are multiples what Bernie's were, which were multiples what Elizabeth Warren's were. And she copied my idea too, and I was pushing this. I did, when I met you in New Hampshire, that was like the centerpiece of my campaign, besides ending the war on drugs and ending the wars and doing a wealth tax, so that then we could have free college, free health care, free college, public and private, forgive all student loans. I did not think of free child care, forgiving medical debt, as Bernie thought up. I mean, or somebody working for Bernie, or somebody who spoke to Bernie thought up. I mean, but yes, there's many things we could do with wealth tax. My wealth tax, it starts at 2% at $10 million. $10 million is the cutoff of where the wealthiest 1% start. By the way, now that we have this whole coronavirus thing, yes, we must end this lockdown and shut down and just go back to all being close to each other. I mean, we have to stop the social distancing. Now, however, I'm not saying that, I understand that people don't want to get this. I also think that there's no way around getting this. And we're just all going to have to come to terms with it. I know I was so scared when I read the New York Times article saying...
Well, isn't it really about slowing it? It's not about never getting it. It's about slowing it.
Yes, but first of all, that's a false idea that we could slow it enough for our health care to handle it. Even if, first of all, when I was 2 years ago, I almost died riding my bike down the hill, and the brakes weren't good.
And tripping balls on acid, I'm assuming? No?
I wish. No, but...
Are you sure? Are you sure you weren't tripping balls on acid?
I'm sure. I was quite straight and went into 5 garbage cans, which somebody had pulled out like 10 feet far from the corner.
So by garbage cans, this is a euphemism for wormholes into another dimension?
Into the dimension of almost dying and breaking 15 bones.
So it's a euphemism.
No, literally.
The garbage can is like Oscar the Grouch.
Literally, it was like 5 big plastic garbage cans, and some asshole had pulled them 10 feet from the corner.
Hey, Oscar the Grouch is not an asshole. He is a homeless person, and he needs to be treated with respect. Okay,
I agree. That's a travesty what they've done to that poor grouch, animal. By the way,
animal.
I don't know. Is he a human or an
animal?
Between
the Muppets or Sesame Street here?
Oscar looked like...
Why do we always come here? I guess we'll never know.
I never thought of him as human. He always looked like some
It's
kind of
like a kind of torture to have to watch a show.
I have to watch some more Sesame Street. It's been so long, but I was raised on it. They did teach me to speak. Everybody else where I grew up had an accent, but my parents and Sesame
What
Street,
kind of accent?
Worcester, close to you.
Yeah? Worcester?
Yeah. So,
Wow.
Worcester. I'm from Worcester. Or Wicked. I don't know. I
Your
can't.
impression? Okay.
Wicked cool, man. Wicked cool.
Wicked piss and shit, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, before Thomas Paine, it was Thomas More. This fucking UBI thing is a fucking bomb back in the 1500s.
I trust
Fucking
you.
pulled this shit up to fucking MLK, Milton Friedman. I mean, and then now they're doing this fucking 1.5 trillion and then $1 trillion a day that they're fucking giving out to fucking Wall Street. I don't fucking know, dude. I don't fucking get it. Why don't they fucking give the money to the people? If they just gave the fucking money to the people.
Right!
But the fake news media is pushing this fucking agenda, Fred. What the fuck?
Did you see Trump being interviewed the other day saying, well, will you take any government money for your hotels? He says, well, my hotels have been hurt a lot. So, and then he says that I have been donating my salary to opioid research, but my hotels, it's like, fuck you, you piece of shit, Trump. You lying, traitorous, stupid, treasonous piece of stinking shit.
Fake news. Fucking fake news, Fred. He's the best president in the fucking world. He's, first of all, he shut down the borders. He's keeping the Mexicans who's got the fucking China virus. He's keeping the fuck out. You know what I'm saying? He's shutting down the mosques and all you fucking Jews. He is doing all the fucking patriotic things that Joe Biden doesn't know how to fucking handle. You know what the fuck I'm saying. Am I right, Fred?
You are wrong.
Scene. I'm in character. Sorry, Fred. Scene. I'm being a bad man. I'm just pretending to be a Trump supporter. Fred, it's okay. You can take that face off. You're gonna live through it.
I know, but whenever I hear these things said, I feel like I have to respond now. First of all, I have had, as part of my platform, for many years, having walls on both borders, just so we could know who's coming in and coming out, but not to actually.
First of all, Joe Biden campaigned with a fucking Klansman, Robert Byrd. He was an exalted cyclops. Was
oh my God! Wait, I was about to say before. I did not.
How the fuck are you going to get behind Joe Biden? Here's the problem going forward.
I'm running myself unless or until I lose. A few weeks before.
Last time around, you got behind Hillary Clinton. Am I right? So what are you going to do if
got behind? Yes, at the last minute, I conceded. With almost tears in my eyes, you can see the video.
If you can't get enough support, you're going to get behind a guy who campaigned for the KKK?
If I can't get enough support.
Like, who's worse? Who's the lesser of two evils? Donald Trump, whose father was a KKK guy, or Joe Biden, who in our lifetime campaigned for Robert Byrd, a KKK guy?
I did not know he campaigned for Robert Byrd. However, I consider Trump to be multiples more horrible than Biden, even though Biden was not only supported like Bernie did, but wrote the 94 crime bill, which I was furious. I was so opposed to Bill Clinton back in the day, because he ran on this being tough on the war on drugs and on people who use and sell drugs and trying to sound like a Southern sheriff. Made me very angry. But, in the end, yes, I do think that Trump is
Monica, Monica, it's all right. You're gonna make it big in my. You're gonna get a camp.
If we don't, it's not only about stealing our rights. Not only does he want to steal all our rights, but I do believe I had a nightmare a few years ago, about 2 years ago, while I was fighting my case to give us all an equal vote to throw out Trump because he had lost to Hillary by 3 million votes, and my argument was that the Electoral College, by stealing our votes, is unconstitutional. And I was very angry at Biden for certifying the vote of the Electoral College because it stole our votes, because she won by 3 million votes. She beat his ass. She beat his fat orange ass, without even pissing on his face. And You know, those golden shower.
Fred, I just discovered the meaning of life.
What is You see, I have it. There, I just infected 10 people. Wow. What is the meaning of life?
I don't know. I forgot.
Oh, okay. Meaning of life is.
Oh, no. Wait.
Don't cough on your mom while you're changing her diaper. No, just. But no, she doesn't. Sorry.
I imagine it's not worrying about their bullshit because it is just choosing between the lesser of two evils. That's the meaning of life.
It is but that's why I'm running. I mean, I want to give the people a choice to say, first of all, we support somebody who does not support this police state, who does not believe the government has a right to arrest us if we are not hurting anyone. I want to remove every judge, because every judge, not just those appointed by Trump, because my point of view is the way that the Constitution has been interpreted by these judges is that the Senate is legal, whereas ever since 1860 something, we have had the 14th Amendment, which promises us all equal equal.
Fred, you know what I hate?
Laws.
You know what I hate? Scoutmasters that work in sex shops. I think that's fucked up.
You know what's worse?
What?
Scoutmasters who pretend they don't rape young boys, but they do, and they don't work in the sex shop. I mean, nothing wrong with. And, you know,
and so there you go. You got Donald Trump, who lives 4 minutes from the Jeffrey Epstein there. You got everyone.
He did?
Yeah.
That's
Mar-a-Lago. I timed it. It's a 4-minute drive.
So you're like Trump killed him, you think?
I don't know.
Okay, wait.
I'm just saying it's a 4-minute drive there, and Trump made all these proclamations.
Wow.
Oh, you know, Jeffrey Epstein was banned from Mar-a-Lago, and that may be so, but from what I can tell, you know, the parties would be down at Epstein's place, so you know, it doesn't matter that Trump's putting on the show that Epstein can't come over, because they'd just be going over to his little mansion.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
So what do you think happened
with Epstein?
Yeah.
I think it could go either way. I could see how he would have reason to want to kill himself, and I could see how there were hundreds of people who would have wanted to kill him. It could be either way. I don't know if we'll ever find out. Oh, there was a sniffle, you see.
Adderall?
What?
Adderall?
No, coronavirus.
Oh, no, I thought... No?
Coronavirus.
Oh.
Yeah.
You've got the coronavirus?
I thought I explained that I had it my fever peaked 8 days ago.
You went into great detail about that.
It's still in my lungs.
So you still have it.
Still in my lungs. When I spoke to this nurse on the telephone, he said that I might have a cough for up to 6 weeks, but I won't be contagious. However, then I heard this man interviewed on the TV the other day who said that he didn't test totally clean for a month, which doesn't mean you're really contagious. As I said, the World Health Organization chart shows that after about 7-8 days, people are not infecting others. So maybe it's a question of you still have some viral load in your body, just not enough to contaminate others, I guess, unless you lick them or something.
All right, here's my third question, because I feel like even that second question there, it went on and on. So the system. I
enjoy speaking with you. Your questions are just a launch pad or a jumping gym, whatever.
A jumping gym for you.
Okay, watch now. And then if I hug mom, dead. No, just kidding. Okay, go on. So yes, okay.
The system is hopelessly broken. Who broke it more, the Democrats or the Republicans? And well, you expand on that.
The Republicans, but the Democrats.
Try to, because I might cut this together for the documentary. Try to rephrase my question in your answer. Who broke the system more, the Democrats or the Republicans?
Well, the Republicans definitely more. However, the whole thing of allowing money into politics at all was both sides. Always the Democrats have been trying to be more, exposing the money more, but it's always been allowed, whether it's allowing lobbyists to donate to candidates who then appoint judges, or allowing or allowing judges to get donations or to be elected, or both. I mean, it's always been. By the way, I do want to remove every judge, and it's not. I forgot to mention this. It's because we have human rights. Not only do we have human rights to do our own bodies as we wish, but part of if you're accused of a crime, the jury, at least for the first 150 years of our nation, was always required to be told of their right to, quote, nullify, which meant to vote not guilty for any reason they chose. Now, when you are on trial now, whether it's for criminal, and that also applied in civil cases, for the last 100 years, no judge has told the jury of their right to vote not guilty for any reason. I do mean any reason. Oh, wait, by the way, let me mention before I get into the details on that there was a judge once nominated for the Supreme Court about 100 years ago, I read, and he had once not informed a jury of their right to nullify, and he was therefore denied. He was therefore one of the few judges denied entry to the Supreme Court because he had not informed a jury of their right to nullify. So my point is, if you are a defense attorney and try to tell the jury of this right, then the judge will have you locked up. Now, and it is, so in other words, the whole idea is that you get to, then they won't tell you this, but the whole idea was and is, and it comes from the Magna Carta back in the day, was that we have you want the jury to be the last check on totalitarianism, on an overreaching government trying to crush us. You want the jury to be allowed to decide if they believe that the law in question is just. So if you believe either the law in question is unjust or the law in question in its application is unjust, then you can vote not guilty, or you can make the decision you want in the civil case even at hand. Judges will never tell you this. They say, you are to determine the facts, and we tell you the law, and you must follow the law, and if you find the facts indicate this, then you must do this. They don't tell you that if you don't, then they're shit out of luck.
Well, of course, but I mean, by and large, this is why you need to hire a lawyer. They're not going to tell you the ins and outs of the law. They're not going to tell you that its full name is the Magna Carta Liberatum, which is the Great Charter of Freedoms. Nor are they going to tell you of your various rights. By and large, when they give you a court-appointed attorney, it is so that he can hold your hands to the gallows. He's working hand in glove with the other people in the courtroom and the judge, and they just move this process along. Before I started to read up on the law myself, that was who I'd go with, because it was free, and but you get what you pay for when you get it for free until you start reading it yourself. And that's the beauty, because you can get over on Case Text, which is the poor man's version of LexisNexis or Westlaw, and you can just read up on all this yourself. You don't have to be King John of Runnymede.
All I'm trying to tell you is that if a defense attorney ever tries to mention to the jury that that the jury has a right to decide the case however they want, and it's cold jury nullification, and it's part of defendant rights and jury rights, if the lawyer tries to do that, the judge will throw the lawyer in jail, will declare a mistrial.
If you didn't have the position that you had on guns, about every other thing that comes out of your mouth is very much in line with many of the people in the Libertarian Party.
I'm pro-gun. I mean, I believe in our rights to carry and to have a gun in the home and all that. I just think that there should be some kind of a background check, but I don't think that background check should disqualify you if you say were a drug dealer. But if there were violence in your past, I can see banning it, but not if it's just, they say, oh, well, any domestic abuser should not be allowed to. I get the point, but I once represented a man, and I'm not condoning it at all. I found it outrageous, but his wife was pregnant, and she accused him of cheating on her, and he wasn't cheating on her, and he lost it and slapped her. Now, I don't condone this at all. It was disgusting and horrible. However, that she then picked up a lamp and clobbered the shit out of him, and then which well deserved, and then called the police though and said that he had beat her up, but in the police report all the injuries were on him. I know, good honor, right? But but then finally when it all came down, all it took to, I didn't win the case, but they gave him the least possible punishment and said that if he didn't do anything for a year, it would be erased from his record. But all that took was to have her admit that really he had slapped her, and then she beat the shit out of him, which he deserved. But my point is, there's certain things like a slap that it's horrible. Nobody should ever slap another person, but always be banned for life from owning a gun? I think that's pushing it. So, and probably most of your domestic abuse, I shouldn't say that, but I'm sure.
Well, so what are your thoughts on, say, like bump stocks or what they call assault rifles or red flag laws?
I admit that I briefly in life for a few months here and there have thought that assault rifles should be legal, but for most of my 52 years, I have thought they shouldn't. Just because you can kill so many people so quickly, and if somebody walks in a room and they have one and you don't, then you're like, oh well, we should all have them. Yeah, but the problem it's just that it's so easy to kill somebody so quickly. Obviously, look, the churchgoers at some church in Texas proved that you can have someone with an assault rifle and 10 parishioners packing with good aim and take the guy out. Like, yes, he shot one person and then they shot him. I mean, I think he killed one or two, and then I think either one or two people were killed and the guy who did the shooting. And so, I mean, it is, look, we live in a extremely dangerous world, and even if we banned all guns, all that would mean is that the only people with guns would be the criminals. And we don't want that.
So my fourth question here. So I do want to move on here. Unless there was something else.
But I do believe in gun control, meaning that we, do strong background checks, and, I think they should require people to prove some proficiency in shooting, like that you actually have good aim.
Sure. So it's been argued that the best way to keep people obedient is to allow.
However, you don't need that good an aim if somebody breaks into your house and you have a shotgun, and it's just you and that person, and in the general direction you can still take out an eye. So. Anyway, go on.
All right. So, the best way to keep a population is passive and obedient is to allow them to have vigorous debate within a small spectrum of acceptable thought. And this is.
I love that. I hadn't heard that, but you're right.
Yeah, I'm paraphrasing.
We're all here. They get us all arguing over abortion, like, the woman has a right to do to her own body. Oh, but men don't have the right to smoke crack? Like, a woman has the right to do with her uterus what she wants, but a man doesn't have a right to do with his lungs what he wants? What the fuck? Yeah, I know.
But now you're going down the libertarian rabbit hole. Then the question becomes, why shouldn't you be able to have any weapon or anything else that the government has? We don't have to go there if you don't want to. Because my real question.
The government will always be able to outgun you, whether it's with a fighter plane, a rocket launcher. I mean, there's certain things. I mean, it's just a question of where we draw the line. But the government's always going to be able to outgun you, and whether you like it or not, that's just.
Okay, and I would agree with you.
Unless you think that people should be allowed to have rocket launchers, helicopters with anti-tank missiles. I mean, okay, some people might think that. But I think we have to just figure out where to draw the line, and I like to draw the line at how, if you can take out 50 people in 10 seconds, good place to draw the line. Okay, but go on.
So there's this acceptable spectrum of thought, at least within the duopoly way of thinking. Even Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, when they were doing their debates, they had a selected range of questions, and
yes.
So do you foresee this happening going forward? If, say, Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders are the nominee against Trump, is this something that happens all the time? And is it okay for them to talk about
Look,
Julian
don't forget.
Assange
Go on,
or
and what?
9/11 or Jeffrey Epstein? What, where's the line drawn for the duopoly? And what is important to speak about, which is outside of that quote unquote acceptable spectrum?
Right. I feel like you're right that a lot of things aren't called acceptable to speak about. For a long time, I was saying, free Julian, free Bradley, and then free Chelsea. I do still believe in freeing Chelsea, but Julian, I believe that
Chelsea's out.
he
Chelsea's
works.
out.
Who?
Chelsea is out. They released her.
Thank God. But Julian, I believe, did Obama release her, or was it no?
Obama did initially, and then they put her back in for refusing to cooperate with the grand jury, and then she tried to attempt suicide, at which point the judge decided that her punishment was no longer coercive, and therefore they had to release her.
Look, we have to free, I'd say 90-something% of these people in jail right now. Most of them are in there for victimless/consensual crimes, meaning drugs, prostitution, gambling, or DUIs. Now you can say, oh, well, do we want people drinking and driving on the streets? Well, no. But first of all, I don't know if any of you out there read the newspaper, but in the New York Times, it was disclosed about 6 months ago that every breathalyzer machine in the world over predicts the alcohol in your breath by up to 50%, they say, but who knows really. They say that there's all these algorithms that they don't know, and they always give a false positive. So about 20 years ago, I was arrested twice in about approximately once separated by a year for drinking and driving. And it's not that I advocate it, but I know that what I had in my system was not enough at all to make me impaired at all. And my driving was quite excellent, as it always is, and it was a little faster than it should have been, which it always was, although I've mostly chilled it the fuck out now. And but so I do believe that if you are consume alcohol and injure someone, that you should have the book thrown at you. However, in one of my DUI classes, I heard a girl speaking who said, well, I had one drink, and then this guy who's totally trash stumbles out in front of my moving car, and there was no way in hell anybody in the world ever could have stopped in time, whether they had one drink in them or not, but she still went to jail for 3 years. So we must be considerate of that issue too. But my point is, in general, I do believe that, yes, you should be punished when you drink and hurt someone if that hurting someone was due to your drinking. However, which it usually is. However, I do believe that if you have alcohol in you and you are completely capable of driving, remember, everybody has a different body chemistry, a different tolerance. As George Kinnison, I heard him speaking in Vegas. He said, before he was killed by a drunk driver, ironically.
Do you mean Sam Kinison?
Oh, what did I say? George Kinnison?
Yes.
I was confusing George Carlin and Sam Kinison. I was mixed because
naturally.
I love them both. Love them both so much. Sam Kinison, I heard in Vegas before he died, obviously. And sorry. He said, he says, okay, I'll just do his bit. He goes, I like to drink and I like to drive. This was before he quit drinking and was killed by a drunk driver. But anyway, he goes, we can drink and we can drive because we can handle that chemical level. He goes, it's because we drink, we can handle that chemical level. He goes, it's these motherfuckers who never drink, and then their wife leaves them, and they get trashed, jump in the car, kill a school bus filled with children, and they give us a bad name. These fuckers who never drink. And then he was killed by one of them, probably. Or maybe he was killed by a career drinker and driver. We'll never.
I think repeating this bit will make you very electable, Fred. Very, really increasing your electability.
Look, I'm sorry, there's 1 million arrests a year for drinking and driving, and most of them have never hurt a soul, and most of them would not have. Now, if somebody's driving down the street and swerving and really impaired,
And how they swerve? They're on skis. They're cross country skiing with a car on their back.
If you're driving down the street and you are really fucking impaired, and I don't mean you hit 0.08 or whatever it is now, 0.1 on the scale, on the twist, on the breathalyzer with a finger on the scales, you know. No, I mean that if you're actually swerving, which I once saw, it was horrific. I saw a guy with like this car like dents all over. He's driving down the street. I'm like, oh my God, how many people has he killed or will he kill? I couldn't catch him. I couldn't get a license plate on him, but hopefully somebody did. I mean, yes, I can see arresting someone when they're, you know, but does that mean you lock them up for a year or for, you know, if they're just swerving? I mean, no, and does that mean that you know, I do think that if they should, you know, nobody even told me I could have had my record expunged after the first one and I wouldn't have gone down on the second one. The point is, after you get your first DUI, they make they go from saying that you're allowed to have the legal limit in your system to any detectable amount of alcohol. So they make it so once you get your first, and even if you any detectable amount, they change the law on you. Not that there was ever any scientific basis to their other thing. There's always a sliding scale in our abilities. Now, originally I was thinking, oh, well, the best way to test then somebody's abilities is to have a video game that you have to try out. That's a way.
A video game?
A video game.
Like bringing it back to what we were talking about with Chelsea Manning and collateral murder. Yeah, I mean, you had those people, the American soldiers who were playing a video game and actually killing a Reuters reporter.
That wasn't a video game. They had video. I saw their video. Some guy sticks a camera lens around a corner and they're like, gun. And they're like, oh my God.
Right. So the point being is that that's outside of the acceptable spectrum of thought. And this is, I mean, I get your point about the alcohol limits or whatever, but what I was trying to keep it on is when the presidential debates, we were talking about Mitt Romney versus Barack Obama. And
I agree. There's what's considered the regular things that we all have a stance on, and then regular things that you're not allowed to question at all. Like, I've been fighting, as I said, against this war on drugs for 33 fucking years. More. 34 now.
Light years?
Oh my God! What?
Light years? I saw you pause to think.
Feels like it. Yeah, I mean, like, my God! I certainly thought by the time I was this age, we would have overcome this horror. And by the way, I have to discuss this for a minute. This whole issue, because you have all these people like Pete Buttigieg and the what is it called? The God, I can't remember their names, but I was gonna say students for what is that name of that group that I used to love? It was this used to love. It's this Drug Policy Alliance. They used to say, and Ethan, who I do love, Ethan Nadelman, but he used to fudge it. He used to say, we have the rights to do to our own bodies and minds as we wish. And I think he copied my line from that. But anyway, but then in the next sentences, he says, whether you believe in legalization or believe in making fentanyl illegal, and no, it's not fentanyl, you idiot. Sorry, people who don't read a newspaper, it's fentanyl. Those of you who get your pronunciation from Trump. But if you believe, he said, whether you believe in legalization or in banning the bad drugs, no, there's a difference. There's a difference. What the difference is, and even Buttigieg, who and the Drug Policy Alliance, their position now for the last few years apparently is that we should legalize personal possession amounts, but not dealing amounts. Well, I have news for you. The only way to end the war on drugs and to end the endless poverty and violence south of our border and in our cities is to legalize, and I do mean legalize, all drugs, because then you stop the government, then you stop the prices from going up, you stop the poor people from having no other means of making a living than selling the drugs, which creates the turf wars and the gang wars, and it's all because of drug prohibition. And I also believe drug regulation, because once you regulate it, again, you only make the synthetic ones legal, and they have to go through a lot of testing. That bumps up the prices of the synthetics. Or well, I guess in California, we've now made weed legal, but it's only allowed to be sold by shops. That means that then you have to have millions of dollars to be able to build the shop and to pay off the local politicians. And remember that Lev Parnas, remember what he was trying to do? Parnas, whatever. He was trying to
Hey, people who read know the difference between Parnas and Parnas. You got to read, Fred. I'm just busting your balls. Never mind. Just busting your balls. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm Jewish, so Parnas comes from Parnassa, which means money.
Tomato.
That's a funny.
Tomato.
That's a funny thing to add in, which is that Lev Parnas means money. Parnassa is money.
Yep. CIA.
So anyway, remember, if you recall, he was trying to bribe Trump to get him a license to deal weed as a dispensary in Las Vegas. My point being that we should not be giving the government the right to decide who gets to be a millionaire by who gets to sell the weed. And on top of that, we should all be allowed to buy and sell whatever we want. If I want to have parties in my backyard where I grow weed and opium
everyone knows that about you. We know that's your position. The real thing, speaking of millionaires and billionaires, is these massive bailouts that seem to be happening for Wall Street. What's your position?
Disgusting. It's disgusting. I really think first of all, the way to end this poverty right now is to just say, look, we are not having any lockdowns, we are not having any shutdowns, and really, it's not saying that you should. And they should put out the word that 95% of the people will not even need hospitalization from getting this new coronavirus, as they call novel coronavirus. They love using that word, novel coronavirus. Yeah, I mean, the common cold is a coronavirus, although this is obviously much more deadly. My point is, it's not going to kill more than 1% of us, likely not more than 0.5%, even as low as 0.2%. We don't know because we haven't done the testing. It might not be no more deadly than the flu, except for just much more contagious. That's another possibility.
Well, I saw some projections. It looked like, depending on how they shut it down, if you look at the projection put against the chart of when Italy shut things down, that we're way behind their curve, and that we have a similar projection. And if we don't, it's going to spike. And
there's nothing we can do to prevent overwhelming the health system. I was about to say, when I was almost killed with my bike ride, I noticed that the hospital.
Tripping balls on LSD?
No. You interrupted me. I forgot that I was trying to say that the hospital was at capacity then. So what I was trying to say was the hospital is at capacity. The hospitals are generally operate at capacity. Maybe we have a 10% quote surge capacity, but this disease, no matter whether we slow the curve or not, is going to kill and impair so many people so quickly that, yes, no matter what we do, the healthcare system, because we have not built it up to be able to prepare for this over the last 100 years, and because we haven't had free healthcare for the last 100 years, and because we even currently don't have like 1/2 or 1/3 the number of doctors and nurses we need to treat all the people in the country, and because currently 30 million people don't even have health insurance as it is, and because they're currently, how much they pay like $2 for a food stamp meal, and now Trump in 2 weeks is cutting off 700,000 people from food stamps, including I think 500,000 of them are children. He wants to starve 500,000 children. Yeah, these are not people who have our best interest. And Trump is the most evil. He and Bush are probably equal. W. Bush are probably equal in their evil, but Trump is worse. And I'm about to say it. I had a nightmare 2 years ago, and the nightmare was that Trump ended up killing most of us and using his Space Force, although and making it look like it was the space people. And then in my nightmare, I was a prisoner and a slave. And then Jared Kushner and Stephen Miller walk in their high-tech looking outfits with 1-inch thick helmets. And if you didn't bow to them, you were shot. And I'm just telling you, if Biden wins, he might save us from that hell. Or if I win, I will actually save us not only from that hell, but I'll actually save us from the hell of always being under threat of being surveyed. I mean, when you combine the fact that of being surveyed and arrested by our government, I mean, the fact is they have enacted laws which make, I believe, 50% or more of us breaking a law every year. And when you combine that with mass surveillance, which they've now instituted, we are all in great danger at any moment of being arrested, and therefore we check what we say, we check what we do, we all are scared of the government. We have to end that. We have to end that immediately. So, but when I say that they've put laws on the books that make us all guilty of some law or other, I'm not just talking the drinking and driving, for which they arrest 1 million people a year, but for which I believe at least, I can't remember the numbers, 20 million, 40 million people do it every year. I can't remember the number. Now, that's not saying that it's always illegal. I mean, according to even the chart that you get from the DMV, it says that if you have 2 drinks in you over this amount of time, you're legal to drink and drive. They say, and then they say have an asterisk saying unless we decide you're not. But most people can handle 1 or 2 drinks. My point is, the amount of drink that each person can handle is dependent on their body chemistry, on their history with the drug in question. Oh, and then you have all these people on the prescription drugs who are legally allowed to take them, and they're also a danger. And then you have those who are on weed who are not a danger. And now they're starting to say, oh, well, if you're on weed, you're a danger. No, you're not. And they're saying, oh, well, we have this many percentage of people arrested for being in accidents or in accidents and then tested positive for weed. Yeah, when the whole population smokes weed, you're going to have a high percentage. It doesn't mean.
Okay, so I think we're getting off the question again. So all these trillions of dollars that they're bailing out, Trump.
Yeah, it's a crime. Not only should we not give the money to the big corporations, what I'm thinking is, I mean, I've heard people say that, I was trying to say we should end this shutdown so the businesses can get back to business and they won't have to be bailed out. But short of doing that, and we should do that, we must do that, we must end this shutdown so that instead of needing a bailout and a handout from the government, which won't be nearly enough to live, what we should do is go back to all living as normal and ramp up the medical system multiples and immediately, meaning masks, meaning ventilators. Now, as far as testing, I don't believe in this extraordinary amount of testing.
So you're saying keep
just to show the death rate, but I don't, and to be able to test medical workers, but that only is even of any benefit if you can if you have enough medical workers to fill in for those who get sick.
So
as far as bailing out small businesses, I certainly don't believe we should bail out big businesses.
Can I just slow you down for a second? So because I think you're saying some interesting things here, and so I guess the question would become, since they've shut down the global economy, or at least it seems like most of
America should be at the forefront of freedom as we always are. We should be the first
just let me finish.
To stop the lockdown.
Let me finish, because you're making an interesting suggestion. So let's say it's to the cost of $100 trillion. I don't know how many dollars do you think have been lost as a result of the economy shutting down in the United States?
The U.S., before this happened, the last I checked a year or two ago, had a net worth, when you add up the property and the stocks and everything, of approximately 120 trillion, I believe. Now, I believe they said that in the last week or few weeks, 10 trillion has been wiped out of the stock market, but that doesn't begin to.
All right. So then using your theory and applying it towards, instead of shutting down the entire economy and applying that 120 trillion that would have been lost, I suppose the Fed can print it up. I'm not saying that's a good idea, but you're saying hypotheticals. What if you took that 120 trillion and put it towards the medical industry? Is that what you're suggesting?
Not at all. It wouldn't cost that at all. It wouldn't cost that at all, and we're not going to take the whole nation's wealth and put it towards the medical system, nor should we, because it's not necessary. I think we could do it with an initial outlay of probably 1 or 2 or 3 trillion, higher, get enough people up to being nurses and EMTs within a few weeks, and doctors not truly doctors, but capable enough of handling, within a few months. I guess you would call them EMTs or nurses. I mean, we could certainly train enough EMTs and nurses over the next few months with throwing $1 or $2 trillion at it, and ventilators and masks and gowns and gloves and boots and we could certainly ramp up the system enough with just a few $1 trillion, which is a lot of money.
So why do you think they're not doing that? Of all the brilliant minds they've got working for the Trump administration, how have they not come up with this solution?
Just 3 days ago, he said when somebody asked him about producing enough ventilators and masks, he said, oh, well, I told the governors that that's their job. We're not a shipping company. It's like, fuck you. Nobody said anything about being a shipping company. They said something about the federal government stepping up, even though you blew it up till now. Now, as far as testing, they want to test everyone. Well, I'm sorry. It looks like 3 million people worldwide have this, and nationwide at least 100,000. And they want to talk to each of the 100,000 about who they've spoken to. That's ridiculous. What we need is testing to show to know the death rate, to know really how many people have it. But it's impossible to stop this now. As this woman on TV said today, this researcher in Australia who was on this from the very beginning, she's in Singapore, said, but she had an Australian accent, from Singapore, said, this cat's out of the bag. I mean, there's no putting this cat back in the bag. And you asked where that expression came from. And ironically, I looked it up. I couldn't find it, but I figured it out. They said it came into the lexicon around the 1600s. And I figured it out because on our wall downstairs, we have a metal print of something that's possibly printed in the Middle Ages, which showed all these men going around in these really tall, pointy hats. And they had these nooses and bags and bait, and they were baiting and noosing and bagging cats. And it was in the Middle Ages, I guess that they thought that cats spread the Black Plague because it was really fleas that spread the Black Plague. So it might have actually involved the cats then, although mostly it was probably spread by rats, but they were going around catching cats, I guess, because they're easier to catch. And so my point is, I think they got that expression from when you're trying to catch a cat and it has fleas and then it escapes and then the cat's out of the bag and gives the plague to the whole city. That's just my...
And that's where the Doors song came from. Dead cats, dead rats. Did you see where they were at? No.
Wow, you know more than me. I only know love me 2 times, baby.
Hey, you're going to get our copyright infringed.
Look, I am actually mourning horribly those already who've died from this disease. I am praying deeply for those fighting for their lives. There's nothing we can do to stop the disease, and there's nothing we can do to not overwhelm the health system at this point. The best we can do, we could actually, in the next week or two, if we created enough, nurses and EMTs with a crash course, like, oh, you've studied this, and this for a week, CPR, and we could get enough people up and running enough to treat these people. We need ventilators, though. And that means, obviously they've shut down the fucking country, or they're in the process. How about instead of shutting it down, putting the whole country to work, making ventilators over the next... But the problem is it takes a while to make them. They should have done it. They completely had anticipated that there would be a pandemic coming that would necessitate, 1 million or 2 million or ventilators or 3 million ventilators in the US alone. And they did not, ramp up for that. So they are to blame, whoever they are, whoever was, and, it also comes down to the problem that we've had a for-profit healthcare system, one that, my dad's an eye doctor. He has been getting paid for the last 30 years, less and less and less per procedure every year. He has, works for HMOs now. He takes contracts for HMOs where he has to cover a certain number of thousands of patients a year. And, they come in, he has to go through them very quickly. Luckily, he's very brilliant and an extraordinary doctor, and he can handle it. But my point is, he has been earning less and less and less every year to the point that he cannot make a profit. he breaks even between his expenses and his income is a breaking even, where he's now not making a dime. The only money he ever makes is from, and I'm not saying this to insult you, Dad. It's not your fault. You have been the victim of a disgusting system which profits the insurance companies and the hospitals, for-profit hospitals, and not the doctors. And the only money he makes at all is when he's on call for the emergency room for the hospital, which he wouldn't be allowed to do, I think, unless he had the patients, unless he saw the patients for some reason. They have these weird arcane rules. But so the point is, the only money he's now making isn't from the practice, it's from being on call for the emergency room. And now they're cutting his hours because they decided, I don't know, they don't want ophthalmologists on call for, and now because of the coronavirus, the number of patients coming into his office is cut down by half or something. So he's gone from barely breaking even to he'll be running at a loss, and he's still trying to figure out how he can run at a loss to keep going. And he asked me to recently research if the federal government, the state government, or his locality is going to do anything to keep small businesses afloat, because otherwise he doesn't know if he can stay afloat. So I'm not saying the government should be bailing out small businesses. Why? Well, first of all, what we should do to bail them out, instead of, quote, bailing them out and shoveling money to those who have donated the most, which is going to come down to, or even if, as Robert Reich said, giving loans. He said Robert Reich's idea was no interest loans to those small businesses that keep their employees on the payroll. However, forgive the loans once we get out of this. However, that comes down to the concept that we're ever going to get out of this, or that we'll get out of this in the next few years. And it also puts in place where the government will be solidifying, payrolls dependent on what your job used to yield. Like, so if you earned $100,000 last year, then you'll earn it for the next few years, even if the company isn't making a dime. Now, that's insane. What isn't insane is saying every American and other people in the world, obviously, we should be helping them live too, whether it's, there's 1 billion people almost starving. If we throw the world into a depression, which it looks like every other country in the world is intent on doing, and we at least can keep our country out of a depression by opening up it for business and saying, do the social distancing you want from old people if they want, do social distancing from old people and the infirm if they want. But if they don't want, if the old people or the infirm or those with compromised immune systems decide that they would rather have quality of life than quantity of life. In other words, they'd rather hug the grandchild than not, or they'd rather have sex with their spouse than not. I know old people having sex, but no. I mean, New York City just sent out guidelines recommending that people not even have sex with their spouses. They say safest sex with yourself. Jack off. I'm like, my God, they're telling people not to have sex because there is a strong cold going around. And it is a strong cold. Why do I know that it's a strong cold? Because I haven't gotten sick, except for the flu shot I had 5 years ago, in I don't know, since I was a child. I mean, okay, so.
Well, I don't want to get too off because it is getting late for me. It's
my point is, number one, the solution is put the country back to work. Number two, we'll still be hurting, but we can at least put the country back to work, and we have to realize we'll all be hurting. But what we do need, no matter what, is an equal UBI, universal basic income. And why? Because we, the American people and the people of the world, are the reason why our country is so rich. But when we say our country is so rich, that does not include, as Bernie has informed us all, the lowest 50% on the income bracket who have a zero net worth or a negative net worth. And the wealthiest 1% of the population, I believe, owns 50% of the nation's wealth. And the next 10% owns like 30 or 40. I can't remember the number. So my point is, so the solution is a wealth tax starting at 2% over $10 million net worth, 3%, my current formula, over $50 million, 4% over $100 million, 6% over $500 million, and I used to say 8% over $1 billion, and Bernie, I'm honored and really copied my number, but now I changed my mind and we're making it, okay, I'll shuffle the numbers around. 10% over 500 million and 50% over $1 billion.
And on
We
that
have.
note, I say let's wrap it up, and you can work on the numbers some more. Maybe can we do part 2 tomorrow? Because I don't want to get
Oh,
off.
and we tax nonprofits equally because they ain't non-profiting.
It's just really late for me here. I
Okay,
don't.
I'm sorry. I forgot. It's 3:15 in the morning your time, and I've been ranting. But I'm sorry. I love talking to you. I haven't talked to anybody about this in so long. If you could get me the full tape, if you're not posting it on your website, I'd love to post it on mine or on. I want to start a podcast, and I want to have on interesting people who agree with me on everything. Just kidding. I want to have interesting people.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll post it. Assuming the file isn't so big that there's trouble, I will do my best to post it as soon as possible.
Yeah, assuming they don't shut down the internet like you've been noticing, and now I'm worried they're going to shut down the power, and now they want us to go to food banks to eat. Fuck them. Let's get back to work. Let's get back to our human freedoms. And I'm sorry to tell you, the old people die. The weakest people die. It's really horrible. And yes, it's horrible. Half of them have been making bad choices in life, like smoking and eating too much or eating sugar. And the other half don't even have a supermarket selling produce near them. It's a crime, much less organic farmer-raised stuff, which, by the way, it hit me. We should have a government program instead of, you know what would cut back on healthcare costs besides universal healthcare? How about government-sponsored not free. Well,
so now say this with me. So the next thing you need to say, my name is Fred Schultz.
My name is Fred Schultz, and I believe in farmers markets for everyone. Free the people, free the slaves, stop killing us. Fred 2020, our bodies, our rights, one person, one vote. Fuck you, Trump. Okay.
All right, good night, Fred.
Love you, bro. Cool.
Okay, I pressed stop.
Late.
I think it stopped, and I'm gonna turn it off for real now.
I hear your voice. I love you. I love you all. We're gonna get out of this, but not all in this together. We're getting out of all this together by shutting this shit down. Shutting down. Fuck social distancing. Shut this shit down now.
Okay, the video stopped. I could maybe start it. I don't know. I think
I'll start it again. Okay.
No, I think it's done. I'm not really sure how to make.
We'll do a new one tomorrow where we start out with fuck social distancing, and the only thing that's more viral than COVID-19 is totalitarianism.
Great. Okay, we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, I love you, bro. Thank you. This is.
Okay.
Bye. Love you.
Love
Bye.
you too.
Cool.
Bye.